Hello all. It's taken me forever, but it's finally time to reckon with the Syrian civil war. The standard story put out by Washington, D.C. and most Western media is that the U.S. government just hasn't done enough in Syria. Respectfully, that's ridiculous. The United States has been the most important force in creating and continuing the murderous civil war in Syria. This war has killed upwards of 400,000 people, given new life to international jihadism, and created a refugee crisis that might just sink the European Union, one of the greatest forces for peace the world has ever known. My country did this. In the spring of 2011, the conflict really was a social media-driven protest movement confronted by a brutal dictator. Assad murdered hundreds outright and detained thousands. It was during this brief period that the sympathies of the Western media covering this conflict were established. This is a real problem because within months, and certainly by the beginning of 2012, the conflict had changed completely from the simple story these journalists are still pushing 5 years later. The Syrian uprising started in March of 2011. Within a month, the U.S. government initiated sanctions against the Assad regime. It took 5 months for Obama to call for regime change, but by that point, the U.S. and its allies had already committed to creating a Syrian civil war. By the summer of 2011, Turkish intelligence had aided in the formation of the Free Syrian Army. This would not have happened without U.S. endorsement. Robert Ford, the U.S. ambassador to Syria, publicly participated in an anti-government protest in July of 2011, and nobody disputes that he was working directly with the rebels from an early date. Now look, Assad is a mass murderer and a terrible leader. Looked at in isolation, these actions by the U.S. government seem like a good thing. But you have to realize that they only happen in certain countries. Where was the U.S. ambassador during similar issues in Bahrain at the same time? What was Obama saying? What's the U.S. ambassador doing in Ethiopia this month, where dozens of peaceful protesters have been killed? What's Obama saying? Essentially nothing. Mild disapproval has been expressed. There have been no sanctions, no coordination of the opposition, and certainly no protest tourism, like we had in Syria and in John McCain's ridiculous trip to Ukraine. Ethiopia and Bahrain, like most countries in the world, are comfortably aligned with the United States. It's only a special class of countries that get the full regime change treatment. Washington, D.C.'s shit list is a bad list to be on. How did Syria get on that shit list? Absurdly, it's not anything that Bashar Assad did. It dates back to the 1970s when Syria chose to align itself with the Soviet Union. As we saw in Ukraine, Washington, D.C. has never stopped fighting the Cold War. I've mentioned elsewhere how people don't really understand just how powerful the United States is. In the first 2 years of the conflict, U.S. allies like Qatar, Saudi Arabia, and Turkey took the lead in trying to topple Assad. They did it because we asked them to. Yes, without U.S. leadership, there would probably have been some limited support for the rebels from the Gulf countries, on the private and governmental levels. But it would have been on a much smaller scale. I don't think Turkey's support for the war would have happened at all. And without Turkey, the Syrian civil war would have been over by the end of 2011. It's worth pausing here to make a quick note on Russia and Iran. As I said, the U.S. has dozens, if not hundreds of countries who are eager to cooperate with us militarily in a meaningful way. Iran and Russia have 2 or 3 each. Obviously, they value these few allies highly. Russia and Iran have been exhausting their limited military capabilities in an attempt to keep Assad in power. Iran literally has generals dying on the ground in Syria. Russia and Iran's commitment to Assad was the most predictable thing in the world. It's quite possible that this is the whole point of the exercise from the U.S. perspective. So when the people rose up in Syria, we were there to tell them we were on their side. When the revolution got violent, we helped that process too. It's not clear when Syrian regime soldiers started dying in large numbers, but some sources put it as early as 1 month into the conflict. At every stage, we told the Syrian people we were with them. They should have asked us what we meant by that. It turns out our plans were pretty horrific. To fully understand what we've been doing to Syria, you have to understand what we did to Afghanistan in the 1980s. We'll talk about that tomorrow. Thanks for watching. Please subscribe. And if you'd like to help me make more videos like this one, please click on the Patreon link here to find out how.